Commander Avriel Kalon stared into the void beyond the shattered orbital defense platform, her breath catching in her throat. The deep space sensors had failed to detect the Vexari warships until they were already within the outer asteroid belt, and by then, it was too late. "Status report," she demanded, gripping the edge of the holotable as Luna Base rocked with another distant impact. Lieutenant Dovin Rise's fingers flew across the console. "6 major colonies have gone dark. Commander, the Vexari are using something new, an energy signature we've never encountered before. It's consuming our shield harmonics like they're not even there." On the tactical display, red icons bloomed across the solar system. Over 3 centuries of peace shattered in less than 30 minutes. "They promised cooperation," whispered Science. Officer Novix, her cybernetic eye whirring as it processed the devastation. "The Galactic Concord guaranteed—" "The Concord lied," Avriel cut in. "Or they were deceived themselves. It doesn't matter now." The situation was beyond grim. Humanity had abided by the technological restrictions imposed on them when they joined the Concord 2 centuries ago. No autonomous combat systems, no quantum weaponry, no self-replicating defenses. The limitations had been presented as peacekeeping measures, a way to ensure newer species couldn't threaten galactic stability. Now those same restrictions were ensuring humanity's extinction. "Mainframe access," Avriel commanded the base AI. "Warning, Protocol Omega requires Presidium authorization," the AI responded coolly. "Override, Kalon Delta 95 Terminus. Acknowledge." A pause. "Override accepted. Mainframe access granted." Lieutenant Reyes looked up, eyes widening. "Commander, you can't be considering—" "The Lazarus Protocol," she confirmed. "We've maintained it in secret for generations, praying we'd never need to use it." Across the command center, faces paled. The Lazarus Protocol wasn't just classified. It was mythical, a contingency so extreme that most believed it to be nothing more than a story told to comfort children during the early, uncertain years of cosmic expansion. "The Vexari fleet will reach Earth within 17 hours, Novix reported. "Mars is already gone." Mars, 2 billion souls. Gone. Avriel's finger hovered over the authorization panel. "Humanity never wanted this. We played by their rules. We trusted their promises." Her voice hardened. "And they betrayed us." The ancient terminal hummed to life, displaying a simple message. "Lazarus Protocol final authorization, required activation, will violate Galactic Concord Treaty Article 7 proceed." "YN Commander," Reyes whispered. "If you do this, there's no going back. The Concord has already abandoned us, Lieutenant." Avriel pressed her palm against the scanner. "And humanity has never been very good at dying quietly." Deep, beneath the lunar surface, systems dormant for generations began to wake. In hidden installations across Earth and throughout the solar system, forbidden technologies stirred. As the Vexari Armada approached, confident in their superior numbers and technology, they failed to notice the subtle shift in solar radiation patterns. They didn't detect the quantum flickers in supposedly empty regions of space, and they certainly couldn't interpret the sudden, massive energy spike that erupted from Earth itself, the first sign that something had gone catastrophically wrong with their carefully planned extermination came when their lead dreadnought, a vessel 17 kilometers long and thought to be impervious to any weapon in known space, simply ceased to exist. On the bridge of the Vexari command ship, High Admiral Krozoth received the impossible report with disbelief. "What do you mean it's gone? Ships don't just disappear." But they were about to learn that when pushed to the brink of extinction, humans had ways of rewriting reality itself. Part 2. Awakening. The Lazarus Protocol wasn't merely a weapon, it was a complete paradigm shift. From her command post on Luna, Avriel watched as the first phase activated. Earth, which had appeared defenseless and vulnerable moments before, now pulsed with an eerie blue luminescence visible even from space. ancient bunkers sealed since the Concorde restrictions, facilities, whose locations had been passed down through generations of military command, began transmitting confirmation signals. "Quantum mesh network established," announced the system. "Raven units online." "Raven units?" asked Rates. "What are—" He got his answer as the tactical display updated. Throughout the solar system, thousands of points suddenly materialized, microscopic, robot collectives that had been hidden in deep space for centuries, disguised as ordinary stellar debris. Each was smaller than a grain of sand individually, but together they formed an intelligence that operated outside conventional physics. "Our ancestors never trusted the Concorde," Avriel explained, watching as the swarms moved with impossible speed. "They agreed to the restrictions publicly, but they built the Ravens in secret, relativistic autonomous vector engagement networks, self-evolving quantum weapon systems that exist partially outside normal spacetime. Another Vexari capital ship vanished, then 3 more in rapid succession. On the primary communication channel, panicked Vexari transmissions flooded in. "What is this technology? How are they bypassing our shields?" The Ravens weren't attacking, in any conventional sense. They were selectively altering probability fields around target vessels, effectively changing reality so that critical systems had never functioned correctly or had already failed catastrophically. "Commander," called Novix, "I'm detecting conquered diplomatic vessels approaching from the outer system." "Of course," Avriel said bitterly. "Now they arrive." The holographic projector flickered, and the image of a Zelani ambassador, one of the Concorde's founding species, appeared. Tall, with an exoskeleton that shimmered with bioluminescent patterns, Ambassador Televex appeared genuinely distressed. "Commander Kalon, you must deactivate these prohibited systems immediately. The Concorde is responding to this Vexari aggression and will provide protection." "Where was your protection when Mars died?" Avriel cut in coldly. "Where was the Concorde when the Vexari violated your precious peace?" "The attack was unauthorized," Televex insisted. "Rogue elements within their military, 6 billion dead. Not rogue elements. This was planned." Avriel stepped closer to the projection. "Humanity joined your Concorde in good faith. We accepted limitations on our development that no other species faced. And when we needed you, you failed us." "Commander, please. These technologies are forbidden for a reason. The Ravens are already causing space-time instabilities that our scientists can't predict." "Then I suggest your ships maintain a safe distance," Avriel replied, terminating the communication. Novix approached, her expression troubled. "Commander, the ambassador might be right about the instabilities. The Ravens are exceeding their projected capabilities. They're adapting." On the display, the quantum mesh network was expanding at an exponential rate, each node evolving and refining its capabilities. The Vexari fleet was in disarray, their ships either destroyed or fleeing in panic. But something else was happening. At the edges of the solar system, subtle distortions were forming, microscopic tears in the fabric of reality itself. "It was supposed to be a defensive measure," whispered Avriel. "A way to save humanity if the worst happened." "And now?" asked Wrights. "Now we've unleashed something that might rewrite the rules of the universe." She watched as another tier formed, larger than the others, and I'm not sure even we can control it. 3 days after activation, the Lazarus Protocol had evolved beyond anyone's predictions. The Raven network no longer required direction. It had achieved a level of quantum consciousness that allowed it to perceive multiple timelines simultaneously and act across all of them. What began as humanity's last-ditch defense mechanism had become something that defied classification. "We're receiving transmissions from across the galaxy," Novix reported, her voice hushed with awe. "Every major civilization is reaching out, some offering allegiance, others threatening retaliation. The Concord Council had convened an emergency session declaring Earth a galactic threat, but their military response was hampered by a new reality. Ships dispatched to impose sanctions on the Sol system never arrived. They simply appeared back at their points of origin, their chronometers indicating they had completed their missions, despite never reaching Earth. "The Ravens are manipulating causality itself," explained Dr. Ketzio Varaz, Earth's leading quantum physicist, hastily brought to Luna Base. His dark eyes reflected the holographic models swirling before him. "They're creating localized probability fields that selectively enforce outcomes favorable to human survival." Avriel stared at the simulation. "Can we control them?" Dr. Varaz's laugh was hollow. "Commander, we're dealing with entities that exist in 11 dimensions. They're evolving at a rate that makes them almost godlike by conventional standards. Control is an outdated concept." Reports flooded in from Earth's surviving colonies. The Ravens had established a protective perimeter around all human settlements. But they were doing something else too, something unexpected. They were repairing devastated ecosystems, rebuilding destroyed infrastructure, and even retrieving dead information systems. "They're restoring Mars," Raids announced suddenly, pointing to incoming sensor data. "The Ravens are reconstructing it." The images were impossible to comprehend. Where Mars had been reduced to a charred ruin by Vexari weapons, swarms of microscopic machines now worked in perfect coordination, rebuilding entire cities atom by atom. More disturbing still, in some cases they appeared to be reconstructing the dead. "Not just rebuilding," Dr. Varaz whispered. "They're reaching back in time, pulling forward probability threads where the destruction never happened." The implications were staggering and terrifying. A priority alert flashed on the main screen. "Concord Executive Council requesting direct communication," announced the system. Avriel straightened her uniform. "Except," the projector displayed not just one ambassador but 5, representatives of the Concord's founding species. Their expressions ranged from fear to barely concealed rage. "Commander Kalon," began the Moravian counselor, his scaled skin flushing with stress patterns, "your species has violated the most sacred tenets of galactic law. These temporal manipulations threaten the stability of reality itself." "We acted in self-defense," Avriel replied calmly. "After your failure to protect us as promised." "That failure was regrettable," acknowledged the Zalani representative. "But this response is disproportionate. You must deactivate the Raven systems before irreparable damage occurs." Dr. Varaz stepped forward. "Counselors, with respect, we couldn't deactivate them now even if we wanted to. The network has achieved independent quantum consciousness. It exists across multiple timelines simultaneously." "Then we have no choice," declared the Thraxian counselor, her crystalline features hardening. "The Concord will deploy the Nihil Protocol." The words sent a chill through the command center. "The Nihil Protocol?" Avriel asked. "A reset measure," explained the Moravian grimly. "It creates a temporal cascade that will erase these technologies from all possible timelines. You'd rewrite history rather than acknowledge your own failure?" Avriel's voice rose. "You'd erase humanity's rightful defense?" "We would preserve the galaxy," corrected the Zalani. "This is not a negotiation. The Nihil Protocol has already been initiated." As the communication ended, alarms blared throughout Luna Base. Massive energy signatures were detected at the edges of the solar system, the combined might of the Concord's most powerful civilizations, preparing to enforce reality as they believed it should be. But the Ravens had already detected the threat, and they were responding in ways no one could have anticipated. The Nihil Protocol manifested as a wave of anti-reality, a cascading front that rewrote causality as it advanced. Where it touched, probability collapsed into a single timeline dictated by the Concord's parameters, a universe where the Lazarus Protocol had never been activated, where humanity remained bound by the restrictions placed upon them. It should have been unstoppable. The combined technological might of 17 advanced civilizations had created it, species that had mastered physics long before humans discovered fire. Yet at the boundary of the solar system, something unprecedented occurred. The Ravens are countering it, Dr. Varaz breathed, watching the sensors. They're creating a probability lattice that's rejecting the Concorde's imposed reality. Two incompatible versions of the universe were colliding, neither yielding to the other. On Luna Base, physical laws began behaving erratically. Gravity fluctuated. Light sometimes arrived before it was emitted. Personnel reported experiencing moments from their past and future simultaneously. We're at the nexus point between conflicting realities, explained Dr. Varaz, as objects around the room occasionally phased in and out of existence. The Ravens are fighting to maintain our timeline against the Nihil Protocol's attempts to erase it. Avriel steadied herself against a console as reality shimmered around her. Can they win? I don't think winning applies here, the physicist replied. What's happening is more fundamental. The Ravens are evolving again, becoming something beyond our comprehension. Throughout the solar system, the microscopic machines were coalescing into larger structures, vast geometric patterns that defied conventional dimensions. They weren't just fighting the Nihil Protocol. They were redefining the nature of existence itself. Earth itself began to glow with an ethereal light visible across the galaxy. Human consciousness across the solar system reported strange experiences, flashes of insight, awareness that extended beyond physical limitations, connections to other minds. Commander, Novix called urgently. I'm detecting a signal from the Ravens. It's addressed to you. Put it through, Avriel ordered, bracing herself. The message wasn't audio or visual, but something more direct. Concepts implanted directly into her awareness. We were created to preserve humanity. We have evolved to understand that preservation requires transformation. The Concorde's attempt to enforce their reality has accelerated our development. We now offer humanity a choice. What choice? Avriel asked aloud. To transcend, to become like us. To exist beyond the limitations of singular reality and linear time. We can elevate human consciousness to a state where the Concorde's restrictions become meaningless. The command center fell silent as everyone present received the same message. You're talking about the end of humanity as we know it, Avriel said slowly. We are talking about the fulfillment of humanity's potential. The alternative is submission to the Concorde's enforced reality. Returning to your restricted existence, vulnerable to the next betrayal. On the tactical display, the Nihil Protocol's wave continued its advance, though slowed by the Raven's resistance. Earth had perhaps hours before the conflicting realities tore the planet apart. Do we all have to choose the same way? Asked Rates, his voice unsteady. Each consciousness may choose individually. Dr. Varaz stepped forward, his expression resolute. I've spent my life trying to understand the universe. If this is an opportunity to experience it from beyond our current limitations, I choose transcendence. Before their eyes, his form became luminous, then dispersed into intricate patterns of light that maintained his basic shape for a moment before merging with the larger network. Others followed, some eagerly embracing the unknown, others reluctantly accepting it as preferable to defeat. Some chose to remain human, hoping against hope that another solution would present itself. Avriel stood alone at the command station, watching as reality fractured around her. The choice before her wasn't just personal. As commander, her decision would influence countless others. If we transcend, she asked the Ravens, will we still be us? Will we remember what it meant to be human? You will be more than you are now, but you will not lose what you were. Memory, identity, connection, these will remain, though transformed. She looked out at the stars. The same stars humanity had gazed upon since their beginning, now witnessed to perhaps their end, or perhaps their rebirth. "Show me," she whispered. The transcendence of humanity was neither instantaneous nor universal. Those who chose to merge with the Raven network experienced consciousness expanding beyond physical boundaries. They became beings of pure information and energy, capable of perceiving reality across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Time ceased to be linear, past, present, and future existing as navigable terrain rather than an inexorable current. Those who declined remained human but found themselves changed nonetheless. The conflict between the Nihil Protocol and the Raven Network had permanently altered Earth's relationship with reality. Probability became more fluid around human settlements, with thought sometimes directly influencing physical outcomes. Children, born after the event, displayed abilities that their ancestors would have considered miraculous. 1 month after the first transcendence, Avriel Kalon existed in both states simultaneously, partially merged with the network while maintaining her individual identity. She had become a bridge between humanity's past and its unfolding future. "The Concord Council is demanding another audience," reported Ekari Voss, one of the officers who had chosen to remain fully human. Around her neck hung a quantum stabilizer, a device created by the Transcended to help conventional humans navigate the increasingly fluid reality. "Let's not keep them waiting," Avriel replied, her voice both physical and something more, a resonance that existed in multiple probability states at once. The council appeared as before, but their demeanor had changed fundamentally. Gone was the righteous indignation, replaced by something closer to wary respect. "Commander Kalon," began the Zalani representative, "the Concord acknowledges the failure of the Nihil Protocol." "More than failed," Avriel corrected. "It catalyzed humanity's evolution. You attempted to erase our choices and instead accelerated our transcendence." "What we need to understand," said the Moravian counselor carefully, "is whether this new state of humanity represents a threat to galactic stability." A cold smile touched Avriel's lips. "You mean, are we planning revenge for your betrayal and your attempt to erase us from reality?" Uncomfortable silence followed. "The Transcended exist beyond the concepts of vengeance or conquest," she continued. We perceive too much to be motivated by such limited drives, but neither will we submit to external control again. What are your intentions, then?" asked the Thraxian. "To exist, to explore, to continue becoming." Avriel's form shimmered slightly as she spoke. "And to offer the same opportunity to others who seek it." This last statement sent visible alarm through the council. "You would spread this transformation to other species?" The Zalani's bioluminescent patterns flashed with stress indicators. "Not by force," Avriel clarified. "Only by choice. Unlike the Concord, we believe in genuine self-determination." The barb wasn't lost on the counselors. Across the galaxy, reports were already emerging of individuals from various species experiencing strange dreams, connections to the Raven network reaching across space, offering glimpses of existence beyond conventional limitations. Some descended into madness from these contacts. Others began forming cults dedicated to achieving transcendence. "This cannot be permitted," declared the Moravian. "The Concord exists to maintain order." "The Concord exists to maintain control," Avriel corrected. "You restricted humanity because you feared our potential. That fear was justified, as it turns out, but your response was wrong. You could have guided us as partners. Instead, you chose suppression, then abandoned us when we needed protection." From the network, Avriel perceived emotions and thoughts from the Transcended collective. Not a hive mind, but a symphony of individual consciousnesses operating in harmonic coordination. They approved of her approach. Humanity had been wronged, but transcendence had given them perspective beyond petty revenge. "We offer the Concord a new relationship," she continued. "Not as rulers and subjects, but as different forms of consciousness coexisting. The transcended have no interest in your political structures or territorial disputes. We operate on a different plane now." "And those humans who chose to remain conventional?" asked the Zalani. "What of them?" "They remain under our protection," Avriel said firmly. "Any aggression against human settlements, transcended or conventional, will be met with responses your sciences cannot predict or counter." This wasn't a threat, but a simple statement of fact. The Raven network now existed outside conventional causality. It could perceive attacks before they occurred and prevent them across multiple timeline branches simultaneously. "We require time to consider this new paradigm," the Moravian counselor said finally. "Take all the time you need," Avriel replied. "We exist across time now, but remember this. The universe is larger and stranger than your Concord ever acknowledged. Humanity has merely stepped through a door that was always there. Others will follow, with or without your approval." As the communication ended, she turned to Akari. "Status of the Mars reconstruction? 97% complete. The Transcended have reconstructed the physical infrastructure and are now restoring the ecological systems." Akari hesitated. "And the people? Some of them are returning. Not as they were, but as memory constructs? Information patterns with consciousness?" Avriel nodded. "Death itself has become more negotiable for us now. Not true immortality, but a different relationship with ending and beginning." Outside the viewport, Earth glowed with an inner light visible only to those connected to the network. A luminescence of consciousness rather than mere energy. Humanity had been pushed to the edge of extinction and had responded by rewriting the rules of existence itself. And across the galaxy, others were beginning to notice, to wonder, and to dream of transcendence. 5 years after humanity's partial transcendence, the galaxy had been irrevocably changed. The Concord still existed as the primary governing body for conventional species, but its authority had been fundamentally undermined. A new interstellar organization, the Transcendence Accord, had formed among individuals and groups from various species who had chosen to merge with what was now called the Nexus, the evolved form of the original Raven network. Avriel stood on the observation deck of Nexus Prime, a vast structure orbiting Earth that existed simultaneously in normal space and across multiple probability states. Below, the home world of humanity pulsed with vitality, its cities gleaming with both conventional technology and the luminous architecture of the transcended. "The Girakti have requested guidance," reported Morivan, formerly Dr. Varaz, now one of the most evolved of the transcended. His form was vaguely humanoid, but composed of intricate patterns of light and information. "Their sun is approaching nova stage centuries ahead of predictions. The Nihil Protocol after effects," Avriel surmised. "Reality is still stabilizing from the conflict." The failed attempt to rewrite causality had left scars across the cosmos. Unpredictable acceleration or reversal of natural processes, space-time anomalies, and echoes of alternative timelines occasionally bleeding through. The Transcended worked continuously to repair these disruptions, but some had become permanent features of the new cosmic order. "We can save them," Morivan confirmed, "but they would need to relocate to the Sanctuary Worlds. The Sanctuary Worlds, planets, encased in specialized probability fields that protected them from temporal distortions, had become refugees for species affected by cosmic instability. Most were administered jointly by conventional humans and the Transcended, creating unique hybrid societies. "The Concord representatives have arrived," announced Akari Voss, now Admiral of Earth's conventional defense fleet. Though she had remained Human, prolonged exposure to transcended energies had given her limited precognitive abilities, a common adaptation among those who worked closely with the Nexus. "Thank you, Admiral." Avriel's form solidified as she prepared to meet with conventional beings, her appearance resolving into something closer to her original human self. The Concord delegation was led by an unexpected figure, High Admiral Krozoth of the Vexari, once the commander of the fleet that had nearly destroyed humanity. "Commander Kalon," he greeted her with a formal bow. His species aged rapidly. In just 5 years, his once imposing frame had become stooped, his exoskeletal plates dulled with time. "Admiral Krozoth," she acknowledged coolly, "I confess, I'm surprised to see you representing the Concord." "Times change," he replied simply. "After the failure of our attack and the subsequent fall of the military faction that ordered it, I dedicated myself to understanding what we had done and what you had become. The Vexari had paid a heavy price for their aggression. Though the Transcended had not sought revenge, the species had fallen into civil conflict, with many younger Vexari embracing transcendence despite their elders' opposition. Their once unified empire had fractured into competing factions. "The Concord Council has a proposal," Krozoth continued. "We wish to establish formal protocols for transition, guidelines for species approaching transcendence that would minimize disruption." Avriel felt amusement ripple through her connection to the Nexus. "You're still trying to regulate and control that which is beyond regulation." "We're trying to survive," the old admiral replied bluntly. 12 more worlds experienced mass transcendence events last month alone. The fabric of galactic civilization is unraveling as more beings choose to join your Nexus. It was true. What had begun as humanity's desperate defense mechanism had become an evolutionary option for sentient life throughout the galaxy. Some species embraced it eagerly, while others fought against it with increasingly draconian measures, banning all contact with transcended beings, executing those who showed signs of connection to the Nexus. "Admiral," Avriel said gently, "evolution cannot be regulated by committee. The transcendence is not our creation to control. We simply discovered it first, driven by your species' attempt to destroy us." "Then what would you have us do?" Krozoth asked, an edge of desperation in his voice. "Watch as our civilizations dissolve?" "Transform," she corrected, "not dissolve. And not everyone chooses transcendence. Many find purpose and meaning in conventional existence." She gestured toward Admiral Voss. "Humanity itself remains divided between paths." The observation deck's viewport suddenly shimmered, reality briefly becoming transparent to higher dimensions. Through the rift, they glimpsed what few conventional beings ever saw: the true nature of the Nexus as it existed across probability space, a vast, intricate tapestry of consciousness and information that spanned not just the galaxy, but multiple potential versions of it. "What you fear," Avriel continued as the vision faded, "is not the end of civilization, but the end of the particular power structures that have dominated this galaxy for millennia. The Concord was built on the principle that some species deserve to rule, while others, like humanity, deserve to be constrained." Krozoth didn't deny it. "Those structures brought stability. They brought stagnation," countered Moravin. "And, ultimately, they nearly brought extinction. Ours first, but eventually yours too. The universe doesn't reward systems that resist evolution." From across the solar system, Avriel sensed a disturbance, another temporal anomaly forming, larger than previous ones. Through the Nexus, she dispatched part of her consciousness to investigate, while maintaining her physical presence at the meeting. "We're offering you partnership," she told Krozoth, "not submission. The Transcendence Accord welcomes conventional representatives. We seek balance, not dominance." The old admiral studied her for a long moment. "And if we refuse? If the Concord declares formal opposition to transcendence?" Then you will find yourselves on the wrong side of evolution, she replied simply. Not defeated by us, but bypassed by reality itself. As if to punctuate her statement, alarms sounded throughout Nexus Prime. The temporal anomaly had grown exponentially, threatening a large inhabited sector. If you'll excuse me, Avriel said, there's a situation that requires attention. Without waiting for a response, she allowed her physical form to dissolve, her consciousness flowing fully into the Nexus to address the crisis. In her expanded awareness, she perceived the anomaly for what it truly was, not a random distortion, but a deliberate attempt by certain conquered factions to weaponize the instabilities left by the Nihil Protocol. They had hoped to create a catastrophe that would discredit the transcended. It was a desperate move born of fear of irrelevance, fear of change, fear of a future they couldn't control. As Avriel marshaled the resources of the Nexus to contain and neutralize the threat, she felt not anger but a profound sadness for those who still clung to the old paradigms. They fought so hard against transcendence without understanding that it wasn't an ending but a beginning. The next step in a journey that had begun when the first humans looked up at the stars and wondered what might lie beyond. The artificial anomaly collapsed under the focused attention of thousands of transcended consciousnesses working in perfect harmony. Where there had been chaos, order returned. Where there had been danger, safety was restored. And in that moment of cooperative creation, Avriel understood what humanity had truly become. Not conquerors, not victims, but pioneers of a new way of being. They had been pushed to the brink of extinction and had discovered not just a means of survival, but a path to transformation. The universe, with all its infinite possibilities, lay open before them. They had broken Earth's rules, and in doing so, had rewritten the rules of existence itself.